you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world, this is Coast to Coast. We got everybody here. How you doing today, guys?
Living a dream.
Cowboys made their first free agent splash.
What's that?
The Cowboys just made the first free agent splash.
Yeah?
They re-signed Osa, I can't even say his last name, to a 4-year, $80 million deal. We're just going to call him Osa. He's a defensive tackle. $58 million guaranteed, $20 million signing bonus.
All right. I guess cool.
Osa Odigizua. That's what we're going to say. I can't pronounce the last name.
Bengals end up releasing one of their guards today. So that, and it's funny because he wasn't overly expensive.
Yeah, but he probably wasn't overly good either because the Bengals' offensive line sucked.
I mean, their offensive line couldn't have been that bad. Burrow led the league in yardage. The receivers led the league in receptions, touchdowns. Like,
because he gets the ball out quick.
You have to have some blocking to be able to do that.
Not really.
Hey, Minnesota cut ties with Sam Darnold today.
Yeah, I did see that.
Did they cut ties?
They are not giving him the franchise tag, so he will hit the open market. It doesn't mean he won't come back, but they are not franchise tagging him.
Yep.
The Bengals did franchise tag Higgins.
Yep.
Yes.
For the second year in a row.
That's an expensive tag.
It is.
27.8, I think it was.
26, yeah, 26.6, 27.6, something like that, yeah.
Well, I just mean the second tag.
Yeah.
Is no joke. If you actually get to the third tag, which I don't think anybody's ever actually used, but the third tag is rough.
Wasn't Cousins tag? Wasn't Cousins?
No, he only did 2.
Okay.
He only had 2 tags. Washington did it twice, and then he went to Minnesota.
Yeah, because you're not going to pay him as the number one guy.
Mm-mm. No, and that's the third tag, is you are the most expensive guy.
In all of football, right?
Correct. Yeah. Like they reach so deep in your pockets, you're touching your toes. Like they're like, you are making a deal because this deal doesn't make sense.
Well, that's why they don't do it. But yeah, 26.2.
Which, I mean, for a receiver, that's no joke.
No, especially now that you got to worry about paying Jamar Chase, and Chase will probably get 30-something.
Exactly.
It's expensive wide receiver room.
Well,
how about the Patriots?
An offensive lineman.
How about the Patriots having a little bit of interest in Metcalf?
Yeah,
they need receivers.
They do need receivers. I've heard them in the conversation. I've heard the Titans in the conversation and the Raiders in the conversation.
Yeah, all 3 of those teams below.
They do. They are bad teams. So
the Raiders make sense because of Carroll.
Well, the Raiders make sense for a few reasons. Like, I mean, there's things to like about the Raiders. When it comes to the Patriots, there's not much there. When it comes to the Titans, there's nothing interesting there.
No. Because at least the Patriots have a quarterback in Drake May. They just don't have receivers. The Titans don't have a quarterback.
They don't have anything.
The Raiders the Raiders might have a quarterback after the draft, but as of now, the Raiders don't really have a quarterback either.
No, but I mean, there's free agents that can make that place work. The Titans, I mean, there's nothing there. Like you look from top to bottom of that roster, and there is nothing exciting in the room.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying you don't remember the Titans?
I remember the Titans when they were good. Don't remember them now. The Steve McNair days when they were really good. That's when you need to remember the Titans, when they had Eddie George and Kevin Dyson and Wycheck.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, those were solid teams. They were fun to watch.
So let me ask this question. If they were to lose Metcalf, what do you think happens? Does Geno become just like every other quarterback who sucks?
I mean, no, because you have JSN, who was emerging as their number one target anyway.
Do you keep Lockett, though, and restructure Lockett if you lose Metcalf?
Man, I don't know that you can restructure Lockett enough to make it make sense. He's a $31 million cap hit.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if they could afford to lose 2 wide receivers.
So, but the thing is Lockett wasn't heavily used last year anyway. He was a 700-yard receiver, and he's coming off of one of his worst seasons as far as catching the ball of his career. So if you were to move on, you have Bobo, who's been coming along amazingly the last, 2 years now. And there are some options in the draft. So you could go get a guy, if you do trade him, maybe you do get a receiver back, tough to say, but I mean, they could survive without DK because at the end of the day, they didn't really effectively use him anyway because the offensive line didn't provide the protection to use what DK's good skills are for. Right. Now, if they send him to the Titans, that's just purely because they don't like DK. Like that is a horrible move if they do that. But if they were to send him to the Raiders or Green Bay or the Bears, like those at least make sense, right? They're rosters that are building. It gets them off of his $31 million cap hit. Yeah. Because I mean, at the end of the day, they're 14 mil over the cap, so they have to make some of these decisions no matter what. But yeah, I mean, a couple of those teams seem like they'd be good fits. The Titans, if I was DK, I'd be mad.
It's like DeAndre Hopkins 2.0. Send him to the Titans where you have nobody, and then watch what happens.
Exactly. Yeah, you're going to take one of the fastest guys in the league and not have anybody that can get him the ball. What's happening, Joe?
It's where careers go to die because that's where Randy Moss finished his career too.
Yeah, it's not a great spot. It's not a great spot, especially, I mean, if you're going there today.
Right.
I mean, when you're like, they're not even all in on Levis anymore.
Well, here's the funny thing. Now that you brought that up, do you think the Titans regret getting rid of Malik Willis, or do you think that they didn't give him a fair enough shot in Tennessee before they got rid of him?
No, I mean, I think they thought they had their guy in Levis because he checks the physical stature boxes, right?
Well, I'm saying, do you think they wish they still had Willis in the building though? Like no, now that
I don't think the team's built for him either. It's to be fair, I don't think that team's built for anybody at the moment. Right. But yeah, I don't think they regret getting rid of him. I think they do kind of regret grabbing Levis, though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds the same, but, coming from the other side.
Should have just kept Tannehill.
I mean, the production didn't drop.
And he actually could get you to the playoffs. But you had Mike Vrabel as your coach back then, too. So
that last year, Tannehill looked about as washed as you could look.
Yeah.
How about the name Allen Lazard? Well, the Jets have permitted him to seek a trade.
The thing with Allen Lazard, and obviously I know this better than most people from being in the Green Bay area, but Allen Lazard was always a great number 3. He's got good size. He's like 6'3", 210, but he's not fast. He runs like a 4.56 40, so he's not a burner. He's not very good at contested passes. He's runs
a guy.
Yeah, he runs decent routes, but not great routes. And like when he left Green Bay, the Jets paid him to be a number 1 wide receiver, and his production in New York has almost been non-existent.
Well, and he's got he's signed a 4-year deal for $44 million.
Yeah.
$11 million a year is not number 1 receiver anymore.
No, but when the Jets brought him in, to be their number 1 because they brought him in the year they drafted Garrett Wilson. They didn't know Garrett Wilson was going to turn out to be Garrett Wilson as quickly as he did. So the year that the Jets signed Allen Lazard was, technically speaking, their number 1 wide receiver his first year. And his production was terrible. And then he went back to being a number 2, number 3. he needs to be number 2, number 3. Like if you're counting on him to be your number 1 or even your number 2 for that matter, you have a lot more things to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody were to go grab him as a slot guy, I like the fit because he can still get open.
So, all right, and then I want to mention Darius Slay. Obviously, he's going to be. It says that he's going to be dropped. I don't necessarily believe that. I feel like that the Eagles did this a year ago or 2 years ago and said, "Oh, we're going to drop you," and then brought him back. I think that they are testing the market to see. I think this is exactly what they're doing again. They're testing the market to see if anybody's even interested. But they're also releasing Bradbury. And Bradbury, I will say that I feel like that he was a product of a poor system. I think that he's still got some stuff in the tank.
Right.
I don't know if anybody's actually interested in him. I mean, they said he is a man-to-man corner who was playing zone. And he didn't play last year because we had 2 rookies and
they were good.
Ow, my knee. My knee hurts. Especially when I bend it this way. Well, then don't bend it that way. You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
I kind of feel like that's what happened last year. They said, "Hey, your knee hurts." And he's like, "Yeah, it does."
We'll sit you down.
So he's going to wind up being released, and I think that was probably writing on the wall already. Of course, he's not going to be released till June 1st. Like he's not like an early release; he's a late release. So,
yeah, which makes sense because then you get to spread that cap hit out.
Right. But do you think anybody picks him up?
I think someone takes a flyer on him.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the way I look at it, right? Like you'll bring him in.
I think it'll be similar to what Minnesota did with Stephen Gilmore last year, where Stephen Gilmore was unsigned until the final week of preseason, and basically he ended up taking a 1-year, $5 million deal with Minnesota and showed that he can still play a little bit. I can see the same thing with Bradbury. Maybe waits a little bit longer into the offseason than he wants, but I can see someone taking a $5 million flyer on him for a year.
Well, you better get practicing somewhere because you can't.
Well, he'll be. I think he'll be working out somewhere, but like he'll probably be one of those later training camp additions where he might only play in one preseason game because he gets the training camp later. Has to take a little while longer to learn the playbook, get back into shape a little bit, but somebody will take a flyer on him. He's too good of a player not to take a 1-year flyer on him because if it works out, you ended up getting a very good player for cheap. If it doesn't work out, you're only tied to him for 1 year, and then you cut ties and just wash your hands clean on it.
No, and that's all of those 1-year deals, right? You're just like, let's see what we got. And Rob, yeah, I agree. They're not going to trade him if the only thing he's going to get back is a 4th or a 5th. It doesn't make sense for DK. We talked about that yesterday. With Debo going for a 5th, it makes me think that DK stays in Seattle unless somebody really comes to the table, and it's got to be a bad team that's willing to overspend for him.
Yeah, but he's just not as good. I feel like he's never been as good as we thought he would be.
Well, the thing is people they expect him to be something that he clearly isn't, right? Like they look at his size and his speed and they're like, this guy is going to be the most elite dude ever.
They look at his size and speed and they're like, this guy could be the next Randy Moss because he's literally.
They really like to put him up against Megatron. Yeah. Right? Like they're like, he could be Calvin Johnson. The problem is Calvin Johnson ran impeccable routes.
And he had amazing hands.
That's why I always, say DK is more like Des Bryant. He runs 2 routes well. Anything that's in the middle of the field isn't great.
And he's got bricks for hands half the times too.
Yeah, if it's an easy throw, for sure. If it's contested, he'll go get it.
Yeah, but, if it's an easy wide open throw over the middle, he'll have brick hands and bobble it before he even catches it cleanly.
Oh, and that's if he catches it. Like we watched it hit him in the chest before, wide open passes. So I mean, DK definitely has some issues when it comes to that. But I mean, if you have a good O-line and a guy that can launch the ball, yeah, he can be great. So like if they teamed him back up with Russ and gave him a good offensive line, that's an ideal candidate for him because Russ just wants to push the field, right? He just wants to throw the moon ball, and that's the one route DK can run.
Yeah, but you can't run it every play.
I mean, true, but like if you watched him last year, there were plays that obviously weren't going his way. He put zero effort into either blocking or disguising his route or anything. He's just like, oh, it's not coming to me. Let me just stroll off the line.
He would do like a two yard out route and then just kind of stand there and do nothing.
Yeah. I mean, low effort guys, I'm never impressed with. I don't care how physical you are. Like if you're not going to give it everything that it should every play, I mean, there's not that many guys that make it to the league. You should want to be out there grinding.
You should.
You should. I mean, careers aren't that long. So, I don't know.
Well, so it looks like he's going to wind up sticking in Seattle then is what you're saying, right?
With Debo only getting a fifth, my guess is yeah, because even when you looked at the things that happened during the season last year, top flight guys were getting a third at best, right?
Yeah.
And so if for it to make sense for him to move off from Seattle, they would probably need a player back, right? Because of a receiver room that's, going to probably be missing two guys. It'd be good to get somebody back, right? Just for depth alone. Then you're going to need a third and a fifth or a fourth and a fifth. And the other team gets DK and probably like a sixth or a seventh, right? Like that kind of deal could make sense. But based on what receivers are getting last year and this year so far, I think that's actually more than anybody's going to give you.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like you can get receivers for cheap right now. Like they cost a lot if they're on your team, but if you're trading them away, it doesn't seem like you get anything for them.
You don't.
Yeah, I can get that because you got to pay so much money to keep him or to sign him.
Exactly.
So I don't know. It'll be an interesting year to say the least.
That it will.
And plus, like I said, I the thing that I have about Debo is that I feel like he's a cancer. And then with DK, I kind of feel the same situation. I feel like he's a cancer. So
I
how
agree.
much money do you want to pay for a cancer?
No, I agree with you. The thing that's funny about it though is if he was a cancer in multiple locations, then I think that really hurts what people will do. But when you're a cancer at one location, there's always one other team that's interested, right? I mean, we watched it with Diggs, right? He still got paid by Buffalo before he got moved out of there. Usually if it's your next move, people are like, they're that girlfriend. They're like, I can fix him, right? But once you've been a problem in two spots, then all of a sudden your ability to get paid goes way down.
Right.
Brad. Forget about Myles Garrett. Forget about it. Forget about it. They're not going to sign him. He's not a free agent. They got to trade for him. Yeah. Just there is Myles Garrett. Forget he exists. Don't worry about it. We will talk about Myles Garrett again when Myles Garrett finally does get traded to another team.
You pretty much.
Yeah. Buffalo's the favorite to get him right now.
And Debo is injury prone. You're not wrong. Although I think his situation in Washington might actually help him out.
I do too, because I don't think they're going to use them the way San Francisco used them. I think they're going to use him just strictly as a wide receiver. I don't think they're going to line him up in the backfield. I don't think they're going to line him up and do a lot of the things with the Niners did with Debo. I think it's strictly going to be wide receiver. You get paired with Terry McLaurin, and we'll see what you can do.
Yeah,
sorry to hear that, Joe.
Yeah, man, that's rough.
That's an oucher.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think the Washington fit is nice. I don't think he's going to get hurt the way that he was. Do I think he gets hurt? I mean, probably he seems to get hurt every year, but probably not missing significant time the way he did with the Niners.
No, when you have like Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler in their backfield, you don't need to stick Debo back there. You have two not great running backs, but you have two running backs that are a change of pace. Like Brian Robinson is your ground and pound, like physical running back, and then Austin Eckler is like your pass catcher that you can flank out a lot of times. So you can strictly just use Debo as wide receiver number 2 and pair him with Terry.
Looks like you have the need for speed over there.
Is that what this is?
No, it's Top Gun. What are you talking about?
That's what I'm saying.
There we go. All right. Perfect. Because I can't see a thing now.
I mean, we can see your screen.
Yeah, I know. Perfectly. See, it was that dusted right there.
Good stuff.
Yeah, this is these were the $1 special.
I mean, aviators usually are. That's usually the gas station pair because you forgot your glasses.
And they last quite a while.
They do. They take a beating. I usually end up throwing them away when the lenses are all scratched up, not because they actually broke.
Right.
But when I have nice ones, those are the ones that I like smash or I forget them somewhere.
Fall off your head and you don't even notice. Yeah, these are are tight. So like I definitely know. Like they barely get around my ear.
Oh yeah. No, I mean that's always true with the gas station ones too, is the arms aren't quite long enough.
Mm-hmm.
And they do that a lot where they twist, they don't sit right.
Right, exactly.
You're always
It's
come and trying to
yeah, there we go. Let's see if I move. You still see the screen pretty good. Yeah, like there's no way of being able to do this without you seeing the screen bright and shiny.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Your ring light and your screen are like pow.
Right in your faces.
Man. Yeah, Brad, none of us are getting the ability to coach our teams. Although, I mean, it's not like they could be worse.
The Phillies would be worse if I coached. Actually, I don't know that they would be worse. I just would, I don't know. I would probably, my problem would be leaving pitchers out there too long.
Sure.
That would be my issue. I think that, especially pitchers that I trusted. Like Wheeler would be out there too long.
For about half the season. And then you'd start to see a trend where you're like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm starting to see something slide. You're out. Right. But the first half of the year, I think you're right. Like you'd probably leave someone in an inning too long where they give up some bombs.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how the pitching happens with the Phillies this year. That's really what I think is going to be the biggest concern. I think the bats are going to be hot. The bats are going to get cold. The bats are going to get hot. The bats are going to get cold. And it's going to require the pitching to really be the one that solves most of the problems in general for baseball. But, yeah. So
you have plenty of pitchers, though.
We do have plenty of pitchers, actually, and Andrew Painter is probably going to come up this year. So
you'll have Sanchez, Suarez, Nola, and Wheeler as your big four.
Right. Actually, Taijuan Walker is still on the team.
So I mean, he can start the year as the number 5 until Andrew Painter comes up, and then you just either trade Walker away or you just move Walker to the bullpen. You also have Jesus Luzardo. Jesus Luzardo is going to be your number 5.
Andrew Painter is probably going to be our number 5, unless they go with a 6-man rotation, which is very possible this year. It is possible that the Phillies go with a 6-man rotation.
So yeah, you guys really aren't short on starting pitching depth at all because you know you're going to get out of Nola and Wheeler for the most part, you know what you're going to get out of Ranger Suarez. Christopher Sanchez kind of came out of nowhere last year, and then
yeah, but so it's funny. Sanchez is an interesting topic when you start to think about that. Like, so Sanchez 2 years ago was great on the road and terrible at home. A year ago, he was great at home and terrible on the road.
So this year's going to be great both.
Yeah, I wish that was the case.
Or terrible at both. You never know what's going to happen.
I was thinking is going to be bad at both.
Then you have Suarez, who he did not have the greatest season last year.
First half he was good, wasn't he? Wasn't it the second half?
Yeah, it was. He got hurt and then he wasn't able to really come back.
First half he was like 9-1 with like a 1.6 ERA at one point.
Yeah.
Alvarado is not a closer.
Let's
get that right.
He's the eighth inning guy.
JC Romero could be a closer, but I don't even think he's ready yet to be a closer. No. So both of those options are bad options, Brad, in the closer role.
Jordan Romano, too. Jordan Romano was a good closer and then turned himself into a head case before he got hurt. So who knows if he'll even be able to get back his old form as a closer.
JC?
No, Jordan Romano.
Who's Jordan?
You guys got him as a free agent.
We have two Romanos now?
You have a JC Romero, but you also have a Jordan Romano.
Okay.
Jordan Romano was the Blue Jays closer from like 21 through 23.
That must be who he's talking about. So.
And he turned himself into a head case during the 2023 season where he couldn't throw strikes, and then he ended up having Tommy John like shortly after.
Yeah.
Has anybody seen what's his face pitch yet? Who's what's his face? I know.
That sums up about 700 pitchers.
Right.
The Dodger.
Oh, Roki?
Huh?
Roki Sasaki?
No.
What
the frig is
Shohei?
his name?
Shohei?
Yeah, Shohei.
Yes, he's pitched twice.
How's he look?
Good. Throwing 97, 98. Everything looks fine. 1 walk, 7 strikeouts in 3 innings. Looks good.
Perfect. Just where I want him.
Yep. Looks good.
He's gonna wind up pooping the bed.
Well, they have already talked about this already in spring that this might be his last year as a starter.
Yeah, which would make sense.
And the plan going forward is to move him to a high leverage reliever next year.
High leverage. What does that mean?
As in basically an 8th or 9th inning guy.
Yeah, which I mean is essentially what we were talking about last season anyway.
Because all the closers, they have Tanner Scott this year. They have Kirby Yates. Tanner Scott's going to be their closer for 4 years. But Kirby Yates is only on a 1-year deal. So essentially you use Shohei as a starter this year. When Kirby Yates leaves next year, then you just take Shohei and move him to the 8th inning where Yates is right now.
And what do they have? 3 Japanese pitchers, right?
Yeah, Shohei, Roki, and Yamamoto.
Who was not as good as everybody thought he'd be last year.
I mean, he got better as the year went, though. Like, he started rough, but he did get significantly better as the year went on.
Yeah. He got hurt. That was the thing, too. Like, he started rough the first 5 weeks, and then he got hurt. Missed basically a month, and then once he came back from the injury, like, I don't know if he changed the way he delivered the baseball. I don't know if he changed something, but after that injury, he looked basically what everyone thought he would look like.
Yeah.
He must have gone to True Fusion Gym.
That's right. I mean, we are there. We are at that halfway point. And if you have to rehab some sports injuries, Pilates is definitely the route. You can use the QR code on the screen for True Fusion Gym, any of the 3 locations, Bellevue, Ballard, University Village. Find your edge, True Fusion Gym. And of course, if you are into sports betting, it is about time to start betting on baseball. Unless you are on one of the teams, then don't do that. Use the QR code on the screen here, up to 125% of your first 3 deposits and a 10% bet guarantee if you happen to bet and lose. Use the QR code, bet alongside us here on Coast to Coast. All right.
Yo, my name on that is Pete Rose.
Exactly.
Pity!
They said that they already said that. Hey, listen, I owe them about $250,000. I was like, well, it's not me.
Man.
Yeah.
So, looking at basketball a little bit,
Oh,
the Kyrie gets hurt, knee injury, right?
Kyrie, oh, he's done.
Yeah. AD hurt. Mavs upping their ticket prices by at least 8%. It sure looks like they're trying to kill attendance and maybe move this team.
It does look like that, yeah.
Right? It looks like they're trying to tank this franchise so that rather than Vegas getting a expansion,
they just move themselves.
They just move them to Vegas because
or they're the ones that get moved to Seattle.
Well, no, their ownership group has interests in Vegas. So it makes me think that they might be deliberately destroying this. And the only reason I say that is I watched something similar happen in Seattle.
Yeah.
And so it makes me think that there's a shot that they are tanking this team on purpose to get them out of Dallas.
Interesting.
Just look at where the Lakers are. Since the Lakers got Luka, Lakers are all the way up to number 3 in the Western Conference now.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like you could see that going to happen, right? Because nobody trusts AD to be on the floor, right? Like he gets hurt every year. Yeah, he was healthy last year, and everybody's like, "See, he's been healthy." It's like that's great. He did it for a year and a half. Congrats. I mean, let's calm down. And then he gets to Dallas and he's there for 3 days and gets hurt.
Mm-hmm. One game,
a whole week. I could be wrong.
No, it was 3 days. He played one game. He got hurt.
That's what I thought it was, but
he was there for 2 days of practice. He played the first game and got hurt.
Yeah, because it's AD. That's what he does.
All done.
So, and then with Kyrie hurting the knee, that team is smoked. But you're going to pair that with jacking the ticket prices up
8%.
That sure looks like you're trying to do something else.
8% jack too. It wasn't like a small jack. It was an 8%. It was an 8% hike.
Exactly. Well, and it's supposed to.
Don't you think that somebody's going to catch on to that?
I mean, teams raise ticket prices for the most part every year, but not to like an 8%. Usually it's like a 1.5 or a 2.5% increase. 8% increase is that's a hike.
I mean, sure, people will notice, but it only matters if the league doesn't. If the league has a problem with it. If the league is like, hey, we don't necessarily have to have an expansion team. We can move a team there. I mean,
are they going to go without a team in Dallas?
They could.
Not the 4th largest market in the country.
No.
I mean, I'm not saying they should. They definitely shouldn't.
Breaking
I'm just saying the way that this ownership group is moving sure makes it look like they're trying to do something.
Breaking news from Adam Schefter. The Rams are sending veteran offensive lineman Jonah Jackson to the Chicago Bears for a 6th round pick.
For a 6th? Okay.
Yep. Jonah Jackson is being reunited with Ben Johnson, who was his offensive coordinator for a couple of years in Detroit.
Interesting.
Okay. So less protection for
an injury-prone Stafford. I like it.
Yep.
They're like, you know what? We're bringing Stafford back. We're going to end his career. I mean, that being said,
Jonah Jackson is a very high-rated lineman.
Well, I mean, the offensive line group really is offensive and defensive line groups in this draft are deep, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Actually, it depends on who you ask, because if you ask Mac says no, it's not strong at all. This is weak.
The top 3 are strong, like Will Campbell out of LSU, and then you got Kelvin Banks out of Texas, and then there is the other offensive lineman that I think he's either out of Alabama or Arkansas, or no, Missouri. Missouri's offensive tackle. Like those three are like miles ahead of everybody else. But the bottom floor of the offensive line groups is not like a low floor. Like the bottom tier of these offensive linemen are still either.
I mean, the second tier is deep. Like if you're drafting an O lineman at the 10th position or at the end of the second round, you're getting almost the same guy.
Yeah, like Will Campbell, Kelvin Blanks, and the guy from Missouri are going to be like your top flight offensive linemen that are going to be starters day one. But then the rest of like that tier 2, they may not be starters day one, but a lot of the linemen that you're going to see in that tier 2 group are going to be starters probably within a year or two. Like they have the talent to be starters. They just got to get a little bit more physical. They got to get a little bit more technical with some of their like the way they block and stuff on the offensive line, but that's something that you can figure out in training camp.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is like as deep as this line is, because when you're talking about receivers, it's not a great draft. If you're talking about quarterbacks, it's not a great draft. There are some good running backs, but line play is huge, offense and defensive line. So it's I can't believe what Max says a lot of times anyway. He's a Giants fan. Like, it's just most of the time.
He's trying to say, hey, that there is no offensive lineman, so that when the Giants pick a wide receiver, that it makes sense.
Hey, congrats, man. Way to get that cash. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know what I don't know, what draft Mac is watching, but when you look at the talent level coming in, it heavily favors line play, which is encouraging as a Hawks fan because we need some of that. But so yeah, I mean, the Rams moving a lineman. I mean, that's not a huge shock.
And there you have it.
The other, since you brought up the Dallas Mavericks tickets before, the Green Bay Packers are now removing people from their season ticket list. I don't know if you saw that yesterday.
They did the same thing up in Detroit.
Removing people?
You have a season ticket waiting list in Green Bay. Like, you're on a season ticket waiting list for like 20, 25 years. But the thing with the Green Bay Packers is it is so tough to get tickets for a Packer game because 90% of the people at those games are season ticket holders. So there's not very many open seats to begin with.
Sure.
But now you have a lot of these season ticket holders that are just getting their tickets and then they're selling them off to just other people so they can go view a game. So the Packers have actually been looking into, I don't know how they've been tracing it. They can probably trace it like when you send your ticket to somebody else's phone, whether it's like through your Apple Wallet or whatever, they can probably trace it.
Actually, no, it's depends on who they deal with. So if they deal with Ticketmaster keeps track of it.
Well, they do use Ticketmaster. So yeah, so they've been tracking it. Now they basically said that any season ticket holder that has been selling 80% of their season tickets or more for the past 3 years is losing their season tickets. They're getting bumped off the list.
Wow. Okay.
Detroit is doing the same thing. I have a friend of mine who has been buying tickets in Detroit. He had 8 tickets. Now he travels from Philadelphia to go to Detroit. He has 8 season tickets. He actually sells those tickets and then purchases better tickets. So, but that's they are doing this, and this is going to create a class action lawsuit, I think, across the board.
Oh, it will, because if you're paying for season tickets, whatever the cost is, a team does not have the right to take them from you if you're selling them to somebody else.
I mean, if you're buying them, you're buying them.
Like you're buying them. You're the one spending the money on the tickets every single year to keep them. Why does it matter if you go to the game or if somebody pays you for those tickets? Because whoever's getting those tickets is still going to be buying stuff at the stadium that's going to be supporting the team anyways.
Well, and if they put a bad product out there and nobody buys your ticket, you still bought those tickets.
Yeah.
Right? Even if nobody's in those chairs. So, like, they're going to get sued. You're not wrong. Like, people will get frustrated. The first couple people will probably be like, whatever, I haven't been going anyway. But if they do it enough, They're going to be like, oh, okay, you know what? No. Yeah, so we haven't had any of that in Seattle. There's still a pretty good waiting list for season tickets, though.
Like, obviously, if I was a season ticket holder, like, I would be doing the same thing, too. Like, if it's Green Bay and it's negative 10 degrees outside in December, I'm not going to go sit and watch a game and freeze my ass off. I'll sell the tickets to somebody that wants to do that. And, like, same thing, like, if it's supposed to be, like, a pouring rain game and, like, in the 40s and pouring rain. No, you want to go watch a game in the pouring rain? Here you go. I'll sell them off. Like, I would have no issue selling off my tickets that someone wanted to go to a game.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like, going to a Hawks game when it's pouring, I don't mind it if I'm on the edge, right? Because you're under the cover.
Yeah.
But if you're at one of the end zones, you are getting soaked.
And Lambeau doesn't have overhang covering, so like if it's raining at Lambeau, like you are drenched the whole game.
Absolutely.
You have no overhang to protect you.
Yeah, I might even still go downtown. I'll just drink at the bar across the street.
Joe, that isn't just in. That was actually yesterday at around 3:00 in the afternoon. So, Joe, you are. I know that you're on Italy time, and that the internet takes a long time to go from here to over there. But yeah, that was definitely yesterday.
And we did talk about it.
First thing this morning, we mentioned, hey, that the Cowboys actually did something.
Odighizuwa, see, that's his last name, Odighizuwa.
Ogazuwa.
That looks like when you fall asleep on your keyboard.
It's Ogazuwa. All of that is just silence.
That looks like someone sending a drunk text.
But anyways, so yeah, Joe, good work.
Hey, what are you talking about? He's our Italian insider. There we go.
I know you just saw right now. That's just into you.
It finally crossed the Atlantic.
That's right.
Yeah, that went there by I think that they were doing Morse code.
Carrier pigeon.
Dot dash 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 dot dash dash stop. Dot dash dash stop. Yeah, I don't remember any of that, but Morse code. I used to know it. Now I don't.
Yeah, when you used to, like, for you, military for sure, but like we would do it, because we'd have friends with walkie-talkies, right? Be like beep 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 beep,
and nobody would know.
Yeah.
Was that a beep or a dash? Yeah.
Well, the old walkie-talkies, they were so big. A lot of them had the Morse code etched inside of them.
Yes, they did.
So, for those of you that are old like the panel. Yep.
It may have, Joe. It may have. I know he mentioned it yesterday and then spoke about it first thing this morning.
Yep.
And I heard that they re-signed Dak to a $280 million contract a year.
And gave him 10% ownership of the franchise.
One thing that did happen yesterday that I didn't have on my bingo card was Jimmy Johnson retires.
Yes, actually, that did happen. 31 years at Fox.
Crazy, right? I mean, congrats to an amazing career.
Right. And he's in the Hall of Fame, obviously, as a coach.
And he'll probably go in the Hall of Fame as a broadcaster.
Mm-hmm.
As long as he's been around, I would bet. I would bet he gets in there. And what? He's like, what is he, like 81, 82?
He's got to be close.
Something like that. So, I mean, I kind of get wanting to retire at some point.
How old is Jimmy Johnson?
Say 78.
81 years old.
There you go.
Okay. So then, hold on. Then that makes me wonder.
He actually doesn't look that bad for 81, though.
How old is Terry Bradshaw?
No, he's got a better hairline than I do. Damn it.
Wow, Bradshaw's 76.
Yeah, Bradshaw looks a lot rougher than Jimmy Johnson does.
Tougher paper route, for sure.
There's no doubt. Yeah. No, I mean it's going to be interesting because a lot of those guys you've been used to seeing forever are going to be retiring. Like it's going to be a thing.
It'll be Michael Strahan running that show pretty soon.
Yeah.
The Gap.
Yeah, that's right.
So do you buy any truth to Rob Gronkowski possibly coming out of retirement to play for the Broncos?
No, he even said that I don't know what they're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, no. So he made a comment. How this all started is he made a comment. He said he liked Bo Nix. He liked what they were doing, and he's like, I should go play for them because the schedule with Fox is more grueling than his schedule was when he played. So that's what he was alluding to because of the amount of travel he's having to do. He's traveling as much or more than when he played. So he's like, oh yeah, I should just go back to playing. And then everybody took that way out of context. But no, he came out like 2 days after that and was like, maybe they know something I don't, but I have no retiring.
He'd probably be better than their tight end options because they don't really have very good tight ends in Denver.
He wouldn't be a great tight end option right now either.
Red zone, he'd be good. Just throw it up to him. Let him go get it.
I mean, that's probably true. I believe you, Wayne. I got some time before I can do that.
Me too. Actually, I can never retire.
Not on the current path I'm on. I can't.
I'll retire when I'm dead.
Yep.
That'll be the same time I get some sleep.
Pretty much.
That's what.
Unless I'm wearing these aviators, and then I can sleep right behind this because nobody could tell.
There is that.
I tell you, you know what I do have to say? It absolutely sucks when there's no sports going on. I mean, I don't care about basketball. In fact, I almost want to start. There's been some word that Jeffrey Lurie would like to buy the Boston Celtics.
Okay.
And I know that he's a Boston guy. But I would prefer Jeffrey Lurie bought the 76ers.
Sure.
And I'm going to start pushing that.
All right.
You know, I'm going to be one of those guys, carry the sign, Jeffrey Lurie, and I'll walk in between the Wells Fargo Center and Lincoln Financial and be like, Jeffrey Lurie, buy the Sixers. And on the other side and be like,
I mean,
current ownership sucks.
You do have March Madness starting this weekend.
That does start. You have
that's really like next weekend, though, is it not?
Well, the smaller conferences start this weekend, and then everybody else starts next Tuesday. Like the ACC starts.
Yeah, but that's just the conferences. We're not talking the tournament.
That's still technically March Madness, though, because depending on who wins the conference tournament, you ultimately can knock people out of the tournament, depending on the situation.
Yeah, seeding you could potentially.
Yeah.
The odds are low, but yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing that I heard about with that is that in the women's tournament, the number one ranked team in the country is ranked number 2 because they lost a coin flip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's something they need to fix because, like, the third tiebreaker is the coin flip. Like, the coin flip seems like it should be like the 10th option, not third.
Well, that could ultimately happen with Duke men's team this Saturday.
Sure.
If Duke loses to North Carolina this Saturday,
which won't happen because North Carolina blows.
Well, North Carolina's won 6 in a row, so they're actually playing good basketball all of a sudden. But that would put Duke in a 3-way tie for first place in the conference with Louisville and Clemson. Duke beat Louisville, Clemson beat Duke, Louisville beat Clemson, so then it would go down to a coin flip where Duke could be the number 2 ranked team in the country and lose the coin flip and get a 2 seed in the ACC tournament.
Or even lose it more and get a 3rd seed.
Yeah. And they would be the number 2 ranked team in the country, and they could possibly go from the 1 seed right now to the 3rd seed in the conference tournament based if they win or lose on Saturday.
I can't imagine that they're going to lose. I mean, even though North Carolina may be playing pretty good, they stink. So does Kansas.
Kansas this year has taken a big reality check this year.
So it's just when there's nothing to talk about, there's nothing to talk about.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the only other NFL thing that's going on is competition committee votes on the new overtime rule this month.
And the new first down thing where they're not going to have the chain gang anymore. Yeah,
well, that's going through. Like, from everything that you've seen, it that looks like it's just going to happen. Yeah. The voting of the new overtime rule sounds like that one's a little bit more up in the air.
What was the new rule they proposed for that?
Yeah, so it's gonna mirror playoff rules a little bit. So even if you score a touchdown, the other team is gonna get the chance for the ball.
Which I don't mind that.
They're also looking at making it a 15-minute quarter instead of 10. That way you don't have the one team just barbecue the entire overtime period.
I don't mind
right?
that either.
So if you win the coin flip, you could just run it down the field and burn up all the time and make it so that you win that way.
I don't mind that.
No, I mean, it should be a full quarter, right?
Well, yeah, but that seems logical too, where if the first team scores a touchdown, the other team gets a chance because, like, the opening kickoff situation, like, nobody even touched the ball at that point. You kick the ball off, the guy ran it back for a touchdown, game over. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, or, when it's the other side and they put together a 8.5-minute drive to score a touchdown, you get the ball back, but if it's still a 10-minute quarter, you have a minute and a half.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So if they were to push it out to a standard 15-minute quarter and both teams get the ball, that's kind of what they're discussing for the overtime rule. It makes me think it'll probably pass, right? So, yeah.
And how about Catherine Legg? You're like, who's Catherine Legg?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was waiting for the second part.
Is that the leg lamp? Is that the leg lamp lady from the Christmas Story? Or
No, she is. Catherine Legg is going to be the first woman to compete in NASCAR since Danica.
Oh, yes, I heard that.
Okay.
Yep, I heard that.
So
I didn't realize we were switching lanes. I didn't see the blinker.
Hey, nice pun there.
Hey, fun with puns. Let's go.
So yeah, she's going to be competing. I will say that following Danica Patrick was not a very good NASCAR driver.
No, she tore up Cup cars.
Danica, I will give Danica Patrick credit. She was a very good driver on speedways because those are the similar tracks that she drove Indy cars on. So she knew how to drive really well on speedways. She just didn't know how to finish a race.
She was not great in a crowd.
Yeah.
Like that was her biggest thing. If she was in open air, she was fine. If she
like
was in a crowd,
road courses, she was terrible on road courses. She was terrible on short tracks like Bristol and Martinsville. Even like the medium length tracks, she wasn't great on. But like when you got her on Talladega or when you got her on like Michigan or Daytona and some of these big 2.5 mile speedway tracks, she could consistently get up to the top 10 every single time. Like she knew how to drive on those tracks. But then when it came to like a yellow flag and everyone gets bunched up, that's when she would like spin herself out or crash.
No, that's what I'm saying. She was terrible in a crowd. If the field got stretched out, she was fine. And the fact that she wasn't very good on road courses didn't make a ton of sense because Indy. But
I think it's the way the Indy cars handle as opposed to the NASCARs though too. Indy cars do tend to handle better on road courses than NASCARs do.
Sure. Yeah, I mean that's because the tires are this wide on an Indy car versus.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, actually.
It's a huge difference. And then you're also talking about an Indy car that weighs half the weight.
And that's kind of what she said when she started driving. Like she knew NASCAR's weighed a lot more, but even when she first started driving NASCAR, she said, I didn't realize like NASCAR was that much of a difference from an Indy car in terms of how it handles, in terms of like the weight. She's like, speed-wise, they're about the same. You drive on a lot of the same tracks. It just becomes of the weight of the car. Obviously, the Indy car is sitting lower with the tires being wider. She's like, this is the hardest thing that you can adjust to from Indy to NASCAR versus when Jimmy Johnson went from NASCAR to IndyCar, he picked it up right away because the handling is so much easier in IndyCar.
Sure.
Like, oh, this is easy.
Yeah, no, it's the days of thunder. You go from IndyCar where they weigh half as much, tires are twice as wide, and you go to NASCAR, the car weighs twice as much, tires are half as wide. You're burning them up.
Speaking of which, they're going to come out with a sequel.
Yes, they are.
I did hear that.
Jeff Gordon is going to play Tom Cruise.
I mean, that's kind of funny. All right.
What was it? Was the guy's name Dick Trickle?
Dick Trickle, yeah. Cole Trickle.
Dick Trickle was an actual race car driver.
Yes. Dick Trickle actually is from Wisconsin. He's got a racetrack named after him down the street from my house.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Yeah, he used to race the Caterpillar car back in the 90s, I think.
I think Tom Cruise is supposed to take over as crew chief like Harry Hogg did for him in the first movie. So Tom Cruise will be Jeff Gordon's crew chief.
funny.
Which is kind of funny because I don't think Jeff Gordon would need a crew chief. I think it should be the other way around. Jeff Gordon being the crew chief.
I mean, I'll watch that movie. I always enjoyed Days of Thunder.
It's a great movie.
I mean, it's a terrible film, but it's a great watch.
Yeah, exactly. It was bad, but
I love that movie.
No. It 100%. It's a good watch. It's a terrible movie.
yeah, when you put that up against Shrek, I'm choosing Shrek every time.
Oh, I would not. I like Days of Thunder.
No, I'll watch Days of Thunder. Days of Thunder is one of those movies where, like, if it's on, I'll find myself like standing behind the couch and end up watching it anyway.
Like, I mean, when you look at
I'm like, oh yeah.
when you look at when that movie came out, though, obviously they don't have the same technology back then as they do now. But like for when that movie came out, the technology in that movie wasn't terrible. But now, if you try to remake that movie from the scratch, like you could make that movie so much better now.
It was terrible. It was terrible. Like, because any of the group shots was actual just NASCAR footage.
Yeah.
Right. Like they didn't even take the time to make it look like their movie cars. Like there were where the groups coming down the straightaway, you could see Earnhardt.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But then when they'd zoom in, it would be, the Exxon car. And you're just like, yeah, okay. I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah, it was bad. But that brings us to the end of our show.
It sure does. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Watching on Roku TV, stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, we're going to get out of here. Pack's going to get some sleep.
Yeah, damn. I feel like I slept through this one.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and